Over the course of the semester, I have explored a few things that have really come to mean something to me. I have been exposed to information that has made me take a step back and question the world that I live in today. As a child, I didn't see the differences between the way people were viewed. I saw everyone as equal, and I'm sure many of you did as well. Since then, I guess you could say I did some growing up. If you consider growing up to be realizing that all people on this earth are not equal to each other, then yes, I guess you could say I did some growing up. The first book I read this semester in English class was On the Road by Jack Kerouac. It told the story of a few young men who started a journey across the country in 1947. They traveled with each other and met new people in hopes of finding a new life or maybe just a great story. Along the way, they made many friends and girlfriends, especially one of the characters, Dean, who developed 3 wives and 4 children in the course of 3 years. As I kept reading further into this book, I developed a few problems with some of the characters. I became confused on why Dean constantly boasted about his power that he had over women. He claimed he loved each of them, but then he treated them like they were one of his toys, only there to amuse him, and then when he got bored, he just moved on and left them. I also couldn't understand some of the female characters of the novel and why they acted the way they did. Throughout the whole book, these women were objectified and by the male characters narrating the story, and several times they were abused. They continuously sat back and let it happen to them, and I couldn't understand why they wouldn't take a stand for themselves and make it known that they should be respected by everyone. Thinking about this led me to the question, what determines how women are viewed in society? So I began how women are usually portrayed in the media, and I guess you could say I wasn't entirely thrilled about my findings. When you take a look at the pictures I'm about to show you, where do you look? Where's the first place you look, and what attracts your attention? Next one. When I look at these pictures, I can immediately see that women are looked at in a negative way. Take this Budweiser ad, for example. Here we see a woman dressed in a bathing suit, posing next to a beer bottle. We can see that the bottle is slightly larger than her. Why do you think that is? Maybe to indicate power over her? And this next ad is an advertisement for Dolce & Gabbana. There are multiple male figures in the photo, and only one female, which attracts the attention to her. But it's not positive attention. Her body is positioned under one of the men, and you can see that he is holding her arms. This shows that he has strength and power over her, and that she is helpless. In this third ad, well, I don't think I have to say much for this one. It's an advertisement for BMW. And it's saying that the ultimate attraction would be the combination of a woman's body with the replacement of her face for a car. So in all of these ads, you can see sex appeal, and they're using sex appeal to sell their products. But it makes women look like powerless objects. I've seen these ads before. In fact, I see them everywhere, every day. On TV, in magazines, on billboards. They're everywhere, and I've never once looked at them the way that I am right now. The media throws these images in our faces constantly, and it makes us believe that women are supposed to act and look like this. I believe that we are brainwashed to think that women should be portrayed in a way of being dominated and objectified. This could be part of the reason that women think it's okay to act this way, and that men think it's okay to treat a woman this way. I recently watched a movie called Mona Lisa Smile. It told the story of a progressive teacher named Catherine Watson, who landed a teaching job at the prestigious all-women's college in 1953 as an art history teacher. Her students were among the brightest of the country, and they were really anxious to learn everything they possibly could. However, an education was not the only thing that they were after. To many of them, the greatest success would be to find a husband. This era was the start of a possible turnaround for women and their role in society. After the war, they had a little bit more freedom and to change how they wanted to live their life. So what puzzled me is why more characters in this book, did pursue a career after graduating college. Each of them graduated with a high level of education, which is something that not everyone has access to. And many of them were ready to just throw it all away to marry and live to support their husbands. They compromised their goals and ambitions because it was the social norm to be a stay-at-home wife. Even today, though times have changed, When we look in our society, it is still much more common to see women stay at home and do housework and take care of the kids, and to see a man go outside into the workforce and pursue a career. After watching this movie, it helped me to develop my overall question for this TED Talk, which is, why do women allow themselves to be marginalized in society? Now, what is marginalization? Oxford Dictionary defines it as to treat a person, group, or concept as insignificant or peripheral. It is a process whereby something or someone is pushed to the edge of a group and accorded lesser importance. In the film, Catherine Watson challenges her students to break from society's traditional pathways and to follow their dreams and chase what they want in life. She inspires them to not always conform and to find their own path. One of her students wrote about her, not all who wander are aimless, especially not those who seek truth beyond tradition, beyond definition, beyond the image. I think this quote really shows the type of mindset that women everywhere should have. If we continue to just live in traditional ways, then how can we ever see a change in the world? With that being said, some people don't have the power to make a change on their own. Another book I read this semester was A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. The book's setting was Western Afghanistan, and one of the topics this novel dealt with was arranged marriage, as the main character, Mariam, was arranged to marry a middle-aged man at the age of 15. Her father arranged for her to go live with this stranger under his roof, following his way of life for the rest of her life. And as if this wasn't hard enough, later in the book, she has to deal with the abuse that he causes her, and she can't even do anything about it because it's not even frowned upon in her society. Can you even imagine that? Personally, I don't think I even could. In India today, intercaste marriages are legal. This means that you may marry outside of your own religion or race. With an increasing education and employment of women in modern occupations, there has been a strong shift for more intercaste marriages and more marriages of choice rather than arrangement. Unfortunately, according to a recent report of the All India Democratic Women's Association, due to this, during the past few years, more than 1,000 honor killings were reported from various states because women who got married against the wishes of their families became victims. Now we can see that women are trying to make a change to the fortunes that others have made for them. They're trying to pave their own road and choose the life that they want to live. And instead of letting that happen, they are being killed for just simply trying to make their own decisions. Maclean's magazine recently published a story of Mohammed Shafia, who murdered 3 of his daughters because they acted like typical Canadian teenagers by talking to boys and wearing skirts shortly after moving to Canada. The members of the family were Afghan immigrants who had lots of strong views and beliefs on their cultural allowances. Mohammed Shafia was so angry and ashamed of his daughter's behavior. He felt like they had dishonored him. So after conspiring with his wife and eldest son, he drowned the 3 girls and his second wife in the Rideau Canal. This yet again is an example of how women are victims because they're just trying to lead their own lives and live how they want. You shouldn't have control over someone else's life or ownership. One of the problems is that certain perceptions are influencing us to push women to the side. Through media, like I explained earlier, different cultures, traditional views, and religious views. If you look in the Bible at how the creation of the first woman happened, Genesis chapter 2, verse 21 states, "And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib, which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." This passage goes to show us that even in certain biblical contexts, a woman is created from a man, and part of her belongs to the man. Like when it says, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This can give the common message that women belong to men since they are said to have been created from man. So then, do people maybe think this is true? Do men maybe think that this is true and that's why they sometimes treat women like they are below them? Or Maybe women think this is true and they just believe that men will always have more power or more say. So how can, well, besides the point, this mentality needs to be broken. And so how can we do that? Well, one thing that would help is leadership. We need to see more women be represented in a powerful leadership role. We need to be able to show that women can not only do a role, but that they're capable of doing a great job. But if more women were in a leadership role, it would inspire other women to take charge. An example of this is if we saw a lot more women in politics. And not only in politics, but also in business. Our past has been dominated by more businessmen rather than women. The workforce should have an equal treatment of both genders, and in some cases that doesn't happen. According to a study conducted by the Dublin Foundation, the European Agency for Working Conditions, 10% of workers questioned had suffered sexual harassment. The proportion of women is 6 against 4 men. The sexual harassment concerns 3% more of women than 1% of men. Due to undeclared cases and lack of awareness of this phenomenon, one could assume that the real figures are considerably higher, said John Hurley, a researcher from the agency. So the world needs to be aware of that fact and then make actions to change that. Women should not be scared to enter a workplace, and they should not be scared to speak up about the issues like discrimination and judgment without any fear. Next is empowerment. It is important that all people are empowered, and unfortunately, there are girls and women in some countries that don't have that privilege. And finally, education. We can't work towards empowering women everywhere if we can't provide them with a worthy education. The Canadian International Development Agency says, an educated mother, for example, can have a positive impact on her child's education opportunities. What's more, enhancing women's access to credit and finance, as well as their ability to inherit or own land, can unlock the untapped potential of women entrepreneurs. Overall, if we take the first step of realizing that our world could be a better place by achieving gender equality, then we can move one step further and work towards the solution. And together, we can reach it.
Do you want me to go?